the New York Knicks will win the NBA championship this season. Yes! Yes!
Hell to the no.
Wait, come on.
Look, I'm a diehard Knicks fan.
I know you are.
I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I root for them all day, every day.
I know.
Bruh. The Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers ain't no joke, y'all.
I mean, Stephen A. on The Tonight Show. That man is everywhere. Kai Cenat also joined Jimmy Fallon last night, and he'll be in studio with us live. We can't wait for that. Got my girl Elle Duncan. Brian Windhorst catching my second
Look how
win.
happy he is.
Look at him.
He's so happy.
He's holding a smirk
Why?
back.
Because he's in LA and he's going to the Knicks-Lakers game tonight?
And he was on The Tonight Show.
Yeah, he's a big deal. He's a BFD.
Yeah. It's been a nice 24 hours, no doubt about that. What's up, Wendy, Molly, and Elle?
Hey.
You know, Elle, you know what comes with sitting in that chair, right? You know what comes with sitting in that chair.
This ain't Sports Center.
Yes, ma'am.
There it is.
Got it.
There
She
it is.
gets it.
All right, let's get it, guys. A big night in the association. Let's break it all down. In Boston's win, Derek White and Payton Pritchard became the first duo in NBA history to hit 19 threes and the first pair of Celtics teammates to score 40-plus points in the same game. In Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell's 26 points and Darius Garland's 10 assists led the Cavs past the Heat for their 12th straight win, making them the first team to clinch a playoff spot this season, their first since 2009-2010. In Memphis, SGA torched the Grizzlies for 41 points, his NBA-leading 10th 40-point game of the season as OKC moved to 40 games over 500, inching closer to clinching a playoff berth. And lastly, in Inglewood, James Harden turned back the clock, dropping a season-high 50 points, and the Clippers win his first 50-piece with the team and marked his 24th career 50-point game, the fourth most in NBA history. Stephen A., we are officially in the second half of the NBA season, and you know what that means. Playoffs around the corner. What was the biggest headline last night in the association?
To me, honestly speaking, certainly not trying to deny the love that James Harden deserves because, you know what, he turned back the clock a little bit and reminded everybody just who the hell he is and what an offensive force he could be on any given night. No doubt about that. But I'm going to go as the answer to this question with Pritchard and White for Boston doing what they did. That's where I'm coming from, the combining for 84 points and then win both of them dropping over 40. I can't say enough about this kid Pritchard. I mean, a role player essentially that's really turned himself into a phenomenal sniper. The brother can shoot from three. We know that's what he does. Hard-nosed, plays defense. You know, you just can't say enough about him. He came up the right way, and they support him. And Derek White is just, I mean, this is a guy that, you know, he helped them win the championship because the brother defends, plus he can score. He's a threat. But here's what I also look at when I think about these two. They epitomize what Boston is all about. Boston, only team in the NBA with 4 players shooting 39% or better from three-point range. This is the Boston Celtics that we're talking about here. They launch about 48 threes a game. They make nearly 18 threes a game. This is how they beat you. So it's one of the ways anyway. And so I look at it from that standpoint, and we think about Jaylen Brown, and we think about Jason Tatum, and of course Porzingis. Excuse me, Drew Holiday can hit some threes. Derek White clearly can hit some threes. We know Pritchard can hit some threes. They will beat you up from the outside, and they answer the call defensively when it's time as well. So that's what I walked away with from this last night. Pritchard and White combining for 84 points. That's my answer to this question.
I don't tell the producers what to do like Stephen A. does. I would just ask them to start putting up the James Harden highlights from last night. Because while everything Stephen A. said is true, and the Celtics having those guys down their bench is really going to be potentially the story, one of the stories of the postseason, the display that James Harden put on in this game, I just want to set the scene here for a second. You got to understand, the Clippers had lost 6 out of 7 games. They came out east, and they struggled on the East Coast road trip. Norm Powell, who's been a vitally important player for them, came back from one injury, got re-injured the same night, had to go back out. They come back home to L.A. They got to play 2 games, and they run into a buzzsaw Lakers team that they put up a couple of good games against them, just couldn't handle. They slipped from 6th in the standings down to 9th. They're on a second night of a back-to-back, okay? So they're in a situation where they need some help. And James Harden delivers an absolutely vintage performance in this game. 50 points. He's got the ISO working. He's got the flop, drawing foul game working, with all due respect. He had a dunk in this game where I had to check what year it was. He came off a screen at the top of the key and went down for a power dunk. So he delivered this huge performance. I'm telling you, this is one of the most impressive
I didn't see
highlights.
that. I missed that one.
Oh, my God, Stephen. I know you did because you were traveling. I don't blame you for missing it because you were traveling. And Stephen A. came up against Cade Cunningham, who's one of the great young players in this league, probably going to be All-NBA. Cade Cunningham goes for 37, 7, and 10 in this game. The Pistons had won like 10 of 11. The Pistons come in here. This was one of these games where, you know, it's late on the West Coast in the middle of the week. I get it. I get you. Maybe a lot of people missed it. This is one of the reasons why the NBA is underrated, because you can have a game like this pop up where you got James Harden and Cade going back at each other, and the Pistons were pissed off because Harden got to the line more than they did as a team. It was like back to prime Harden with the Rockets. He was cooking guys, and the other team was complaining about the officiating. So, I mean, I really enjoyed this. James Harden's having a fabulous season, got his All-Star appearance back. I don't know how far the Clippers are going to go. I'm not saying
they're not going very far.
I agree.
Yes, you do.
I don't say this
Yes,
is
you
meaningful.
do. You know they're not going far.
I'm just saying, let's enjoy how awesome of a game this was, because he was going head-to-head with Cade for a lot of this.
I think we can enjoy it. But Wendy, Molly, Stephen A., do you know what my favorite subject was in school? Well, apart from PE, that's why I got into sports. It was history. Because with all due respect to James Harden, we just showed it, fourth most, has 26 50-point games, fourth most in history. In fact, he's done it against 16 different teams. The only people who have done it against more teams, Kobe, Michael Jordan, that's amazing. But you know what's never, ever, ever, ever happened before? Ever, is what we saw from the Celtics last night. This, to me, was the stat of the night, maybe the month. The Celtics have played 65% of their all-time games with at least 2 Hall of Famers on their roster.
An amazing stat. I agree.
And they've never, ever had 2 players both score 40 points in a game. One of those players coming off the bench. No team had ever had a pair of teammates hit 9 threes in the same game. Not the Splash Brothers, not Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. And more impressive, they had 1 turnover between the 2 of them. I love history, and I love what James Harden did, and you're right. It shouldn't always be about the history part. It should just be about seeing these vintage performances. But how can you not say that what we saw from the Celtics, for the very least last night, was the most incredible thing that we had seen?
Well,
that was remarkable.
I'll also move it forward in this regard. I appreciate the historical perspective that you brought up, and certainly not trying to knock down what James Harden has done, because like I said, he turned back the clock and reminded us of who the hell he still is and can be on any given night. And by the way, he deserves so much props because Paul George is gone. Kawhi Leonard might as well be, as far as I'm concerned, because, you know, listen, I don't care. I don't care if you see him on the court. You don't think for 1 second you're going to see Kawhi Leonard on the court come playoff time. Something will happen. That's just how you feel. James Harden is the guy. I don't want to say he's carrying them, because obviously Ty Lue's coaching them. Jeff Van Gundy is your lead assistant. He's elevated their defense exceptionally well. We get all of that part, but James Harden is that dude. So we got to give him love for that. However, I do find myself thinking about Boston, because I know Cleveland is the number 1 team in the East and one of the top 2 teams in the NBA record-wise. And we saw them beat Boston last week. Well, get this. I'm going back to December 1st in Cleveland, when the first loss to the Cavs is what Boston suffered. They were without Derek White and Jaylen Brown in that game. Then they played last week. They were without Drew Holiday and Porzingis in that game. And so all of this trepidation that people have about Cleveland and whether or not Cleveland can deliver the goods, that's a big reason why, because they're saying the 2 games that you beat Boston, Boston wasn't fully loaded. What's going to happen when they're fully loaded? Cleveland's going to have to answer that question. Yeah. It explains why Boston is still a favorite in a lot of people's eyes. And that's what makes it so interesting as well, because when you see a Pritchard and a Derek White getting loose like that, then you're saying to yourself, well, damn. I mean, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Tatum, Porzingis, it's going to be all right no matter what, because Boston appears to be loaded and they pull out different elements whenever called upon to do so.
I'm so with you, S.A. Wendy, when I'm watching that game last night with Cleveland, I'm thinking this is why there's this big conversation going around right now. Are they disrespected? Are they disrespected? They have more wins than anyone. No one's talking about them.